interviews,
Spurs winning,
press conferences,
covering everything Tottenham
and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. This is another episode of the viewers' questions and comments. This time I'm joined by Spurs YouTuber Brian Dagul. So please do get involved. Give us your thoughts. Give us how you're feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. How are you feeling about the new season? How are you feeling about the transfer window? And in the last hour, Fabrizio Romano has stated that Spurs are in for Dominic Solanke of Bournemouth. How are you feeling about that? We are currently live on YouTube. We are live on X and on Facebook. So as I say, do get involved. This is all about you. This is all about the viewers and the listeners and your opinions this evening. So there is no script on this podcast this evening. It is all about what you want to know, what you want answering, and what you want to talk about. So joining me is the very opinionated Brian Dagul. Brian, great to have you here. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm not opinionated. I'm very misunderstood. That's what I think we'll go by now. But I'm good, mate. I'm good. And it's good to be back on the channel and do this. This could be an interesting one.
I don't think many people have actually put me and you together on a podcast. So this is going to be an interesting one. But it's something I've been looking forward to.
Same here, mate. Same here. I mean, talk about duos that we didn't think we needed. You've got Staveley and Solanke. And now you've got the two worlds combining of you and me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Right, I'm going to kick this off, Brian, because in the last hour or so, Fabrizio Romano has stated that Tottenham are exploring a move for Dominic Solanke. He is among the targets for Spurs. Difficult deal, as he is a key player at the moment for Bournemouth. No formal bid to Bournemouth so far from Tottenham. Spurs are exploring options in buying a new striker and potentially new winger, based on opportunities. As we know, Dominic Solanke scored 19 goals in 38 Premier League games last season. He had a good season, in fairness. He has scored 72 goals in 199 league appearances for Bournemouth. And before that, he spent a couple of years at Liverpool, scoring once in the league in 21 games. Brian, let's kick this off, this podcast, with talking about these links to Solanke, because you know, we've all been saying it. We've been saying it for weeks. Ange Postecoglou so obviously wants business done early. That hasn't materialised as yet. We've got a couple of signings in, a couple of 18-year-olds, but we do need experience on the pitch. We've been crying out for a striker. We all know this as Spurs fans. We want a striker in. Fabrizio Romano in the last couple of weeks has stated we will only get one more offensive player, but he's now changed his mind, or he's now been given more information, and it now looks like two, a winger and a striker. What do you make of this? These rumours and reports, and Dominic Solanke in a Spurs shirt? Yes or no?
No. And the reason I say is that he did have a good season last season. I look at Spurs. We've just got rid of what many of us will feel is the greatest striker on the planet, and we've gone to Richarlison, who we can't keep fit, and now it's Dominic Solanke. Where I'm looking, we moved to this game-changing stadium to be able to compete with the big boys. And Dominic Solanke, I don't think takes us there. Yes, he had a good season. He's had a couple of injuries. We have needed a striker, and we need it badly. And I just don't see how all of a sudden this is the name that comes out. We've hired a transfer team that have known Ange's target since the beginning of the summer. And it's that word, you know what? I don't know if it's Fabrizio or I don't know if it's the man himself, Mr. Levy. Whenever I hear that word opportunities, it's like fingers down a chalkboard to me. And this stinks of one Daniel Levy. This one is a no-go for me. I don't know how you think, Chris.
I think he had a good season last year, Brian. But when I look at it, I think how is this going to improve Spurs and take us to that next level? Every single transfer window, I always think about, is this going to take us forward? Are we going to progress as a football club? Are we showing the ambition that we want to show as fans and as Ange Postecoglou? Because Postecoglou so often has spoken out about, I don't want to be fifth, I don't want to be fourth, I don't want to be third, I don't want to be second, I want to be number one. And when you want to be number one, you need to go out and identify your first targets. And, I always say it's not about spending big, it is about spending in the right way, because we've seen on Ndombele and Lo Celso, Lo Celso, of course, is still at the club, but he has delivered very little, in my opinion. And he's going to cost a lot of money, Solanke. Fabrizio Romano has said that it's going to, going to be a difficult deal. But the comments have been literally flooding in about Solanke. Ben Impson writes here, desperation already. Mr. H said, I thought that we had a plan. Leo writes, can we stop exploring already and just dive into the market? Tony writes, we need a versatile midfielder. Nick, but why Solanke? He isn't better than Kulusevski, Richarlison or more. I tell you what, Brian, the comments in so far in the last hour or so have been quite negative about this this possible move. I get that he's homegrown. I get that he's going to tick a lot of boxes. He's had one good season in the Premier League, in my opinion, last year, scoring 19 goals in 38 games for a side like Bournemouth, a fantastic goal scorer in return. But is this going to take Spurs to the next level? I don't believe so.
The way I've looked at this as well is I look back to when my grandpa was watching Spurs, and we can all, no matter when you start talking about Spurs, you can look at the history of Spurs strikers and Spurs leading men. We can talk Jimmy Green, we can talk Martin Chivers, we can go further down the line, we can talk Lineker, Klinsmann, Sheringham, Berbatov, Keane, Defoe. Then you get to the great Harry Kane, and now we're at Richarlison and Solanke. This is Tottenham Hotspur. We have been known to have strikers that are goal scorers, prolific goal scorers, and this is it. And what's worse now is back in those days we used to play with two. There was always a big man, small man, or one. Archibald and Crooks. How can I leave out Archibald and Crooks? A great double act. And now obviously you play more with the one and wingers. And I'm sorry, Richarlison and Solanke are not in the same league as the ones I've just mentioned. They don't even play the same sport. And for me, the Tottenham Hotspur striker is like the number 9 for Shearer. Like you have at Manchester United, the great number 7s. The striker at Tottenham is the one, and this is definitely not the one. And I can totally understand why the fury is coming, especially when this window was meant to be different. We have a transfer team, and this is the manager that's going to get Levy to change. And it doesn't look like it is, especially when it comes to a position we desperately need a elite, prolific goal scorer to take us forward in 4 competitions.
Right, I just want to take this comment here from Daniel Parker. Thank you, Daniel. Rest in peace, Craig Shakespeare. He'll be forever remembered for being a huge part of Leicester's magical season. I was very lucky enough actually to meet Craig Shakespeare a couple of times. Very, very nice and approachable man. So yeah, rest in peace. Very, very sad news. Ryan, let me ask you, the 2 transfer windows under Ange Postecoglou so far, what have you made of them? Forget this one so far.
Yep.
What have you made of the 2 in the past?
I think, well, first of all, when we didn't get Raya, I went crazy, saying this is typical Levy. He's done it again. He's gone for the cheaper option. But I was put in my place. I had to shut up and quickly come out and issue an apology because Vicario was an incredible find. And I've said before, when you look at goalkeepers and you look at people like Manchester United who have lost greats, Arsenal who lost Seaman, Chelsea who have lost Cech, it has taken ages to find a replacement. And we've struck gold, finding straight away the heir to the throne for Hugo. Udogie, great signing. Needs to improve a bit, but the skills and the attributes are there. Van der Ven, I will not speak highly enough. That guy is just incredible. Who else we got? Maddison. I wanted Eze over Maddison last season. I just thought his pace and power offered more than Maddison. Maddison on his day, fantastic. Who else have I left out? Solomon. Well, we all know he's been injured and it's just not working out. Valise, I don't understand. Have I left any out? But let's just say it's good. Let's just say...
There's a report today, Brian, about Valise possibly leaving the football club. Would you be surprised by that?
No, but I think he does need a loan. But I think that I'd like him to... I don't know why these players don't get loans in England to learn the English game, to understand and get a better... understanding and settle in the country. So I would want Valise to go on loan to an English team as opposed to abroad.
Right, let's take Jones's comment here. Solanke, an odd one, really. One decent season last campaign. Overall, his figures aren't prolific at all. Do you think that Ange Postecoglou could get the best out of someone like Dominic Solanke? Could he work with him? And would or could we be surprised by him if he signed for Tottenham?
Well, let's put it this way. At the moment, Solanke, and he's a big, powerful force, and he's great in the air, and we'll rely on crosses coming in early. Do you see our wingers currently, apart from Bergvall that did that great cross in the Hearts game, we have not been good at getting crosses into the box and hitting the target man. So the wingers would drastically have to improve to get the best out of his game, in my opinion. And then you never know. But I think the wingers would definitely have to come in to get the best out of his game. What's your thoughts on it, Chris?
I actually think that we've been better in this final third in the last couple of games. However, no disrespect to the opposition. I think that the Bayern Munich games coming up are going to be a much bigger test for us. And of course, I'm looking forward to the centre backs coming back, but that's not going to be for the game on Saturday. But overall, Brian, in this window, I think that we need to do a lot more. And am I surprised by what we have done so far or what we haven't done so far? Yes, I think a lot of people are. And Postecoglou, I think he is a man very much that he wants things done quickly, early. He wants things, covered, completed, and everything in place. I don't think it's ever ideal for any manager to get on a plane to go to, a tour without some new signings on there. And when I say some new signings, I mean experienced players that are going to take the football club forward. Because my question all the time is, what's the ambition? What's the ambition for next season? Is it to compete for the Premier League? Is it to finish in the top four? Or is it to just get into a European spot? I always think that some of these mid-table clubs like Crystal Palace, like their fans, what must they think every summer? What's our ambition? To finish mid-table? But Spurs, when I talk so often on this channel, Brian, 16 plus years now without a trophy. It's unbelievable. And I said, and I jokingly said about it the other day that, in the last 10 years, I've been to 5 finals, 3 with Spurs, 2 with England, and we've lost a lot. Sadly, Harry Kane has played in every single one of those games. I'm not blaming him, but it's
I blame you.
It's blame me, yeah.
It's your fault.
But it's hard. It's hard as a fan sometimes to take. And I've also said that we've always been, like so many managers have always been like a couple of players away from doing something special. And I feel like we are in that position now. Now, there is a lot of negativity, Brian, at the moment amongst the fan base, because every day goes on when there is no, decent, firm rumours, reports, published by the likes of Fabrizio Romano, people then start getting very worried, thinking, oh, my God, we're not signing anyone. Oh, no one's coming in, blah, blah, blah. And we are now 29 days away from the transfer window closing. Yep. Let me ask you, where do you stay? Are you starting to panic, or are you still staying calm to think, well, there's 29 days left. Don't worry about it.
I am remaining calm. I am getting anxious. I said that this season, I'm going to relax till the window shuts, and then we can have a look. I've said I'd rather get the right player in late than buy the wrong player early. Yeah. But as long as this drags on, it's just got the feelings of what we've seen before. It's no different. It's absolutely no different to what we've seen before.
So you don't think anything is going to change because even though Ange has had 2 decent windows, you don't see that as being a pattern. You don't think that's going to continue in this window?
That's not. I wouldn't say that, Chris. I'm saying I think we'll get a couple of players in, but right now, when we're saying the fans are getting anxious, I can understand why they're getting anxious. There's loads of fans that will be like, do you know what? No, I'm taking it easy. But the patterns have been repeating themselves. The last 2 windows have been fine or better. I even came out and said, well done, Daniel Levy, for the January window, because I said I'm only basing it on players coming in quickly rather than a Porro on the last day or a Kulusevski and Bentancur. And to Tottenham's credit, whether you like Timo Werner or Dragusin, players came in early. That to me was like, okay, let's do that again. But now we're here again. So when Spurs fans are getting anxious like they are right now, and do you know what? I don't know if it's because Paratici used to throw all names up in the air, or Land is doing things in the shadows. There's just we don't know what we're doing. And when Spurs fans see a pattern happening over and over again, you can't blame them for feeling the way they do.
The only thing, Brian, I would say on that is that, and I try to see everything from all different ways here. There's 29 days left of the transfer window. Andrew's had 2 decent windows so far.
Yep.
The club is still going through a massive rebuild because, let's face it, the club is in a very different state to what it was 12 months ago when Ange Postecoglou walked in.
Correct.
You know, so many players have left the football club, which, you know, I think that, you know, credit to the club for offloading so many of those players. It now looks like Emerson Royal is going to be the next one to leave. So a lot of players have gone out the door. I know we're all saying, well, a lot of players need to come in the door. How confident are you that is going to continue?
I don't know. Listen, Chris, I think I looked at it last season, and when we brought in Van der Ven, what was it, a week before the season? He trained 2, 3, 4 days, and then he started, and we all know that turned out. Not saying it works for everyone, not saying it works with every transfer, but they're there. But I think at the end of the window, when this closes, there will be at least 2 more players in. It's just a case of when. It's just a case of who.
The mood, though, Brian, it can change very. The mood can change very, very quickly, can't it?
Yeah, it can, and like we've seen it with Solanke. Like if it had been an Eze, we'd all be on here going, "Well done at last, finally, brilliant, yippee-ki-yay!" Everything would be happy. Yeah. It's because of who it is and the position it is. And you look at that picture behind you, and you've got the greatest striker and goal scorer we've ever had. And now we're talking about Dominic Solanke wearing that number. That's the big difference. But the mood, us Spurs fans, and I include myself in this. Listen, I could be very erratic. I could be very volatile, or I have been. And I could change like that. And I realise that. But like I said, staying calm this is, but the mood, hopefully, it needs to change because tensions are flaring.
Brian, comment here. We're talking about needing a prolific goal scorer. Who is that guy? And let me also ask you, who would put a smile on your face? Because, you know, every Spurs fan at the moment is saying, oh, we want Ivan Toney, we want Eze. I think so many Spurs fans have got, you know, this fixation now on those 2 players. And I feel like some of them are now like, well, if we don't get Eze and we don't get Toney, it's a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it all summer. The striker I want is Gyökeres. I think that guy has got everything. Yes, people can say, oh, he's only had 1 good season in Portugal. But I think his link-up play, his power, his clinical finishing, I think I've been saying it all summer. That's the guy. And if we're talking around the 60 million for Solanke, I would rather go get Gyökeres. For me, he has everything that I think will suit Ange. I think he is the one. What's yours, Chris? Who have you been? Because I know Toney has been heavily, but that's kind of gone behind now because of Thiago getting that injury and being longer than feared. Who's
Brian,
yours?
I've always said, I think that European players, when they've not played in the Premier League before, it's always a big risk. We have seen so many European players come to the Premier League, not quite made it, not had that impact. Now, when you talk about signings, the one I always mention is 1994 Klinsmann. You know, hit the ground running. When do we really see that? When have we really seen that a player has signed for Tottenham and hit the ground running? You know, Van der Ven is one as well. Hit the ground running. You know, fitted into the Premier League so well. I like Premier League experience. Okay. And I'll tell you what, at the start of the window, if you said, Chris, do you want Ivan Toney? I would have said no. I've completely changed my mind. I think he'd be a perfect fit as a footballer. But I can't see him signing for Spurs because of all the stuff off the pitch, the betting scandal and all of that attitude. I just can't see him signing for Tottenham. Eze is a player that I've wanted Spurs to sign for a very, very long time. When he was at QPR, Spurs were in talks. We had the chance to sign him for whatever reason, whether we didn't want to pay the money that they were asking. I feel like we have really missed out, and I feel like Eze would be a a brilliant signing for Tottenham. So I love players with Premier League experience, but of course, when they've got Premier League experience, you're going to be paying a premium.
Yep.
I'm very much in the camp that, you know, we're saving all this money with players going out the door.
Correct.
Some of the Harry Kane money is still there, or should be there.
Yep.
Spurs are not a poor club. You know, we are the FFP champions. If there was a trophy for it, we'd win it.
By a landslide.
So, you know, we've got to grab this opportunity now and back Ange Postecoglou, because let's face it, Brian, including Pochettino, since he left, we've had 7 managers in the dugout. We cannot continue this cycle of keep getting new managers in. I really think that we need to back Ange Postecoglou. I believe that he has been heavily backed so far in these transfer windows that he's had. It must continue. It has to continue.
Chris, it does have to. But what I don't want to see, if Ange gets off to a bad start, for whatever reason, whether he gets the players in or not, I just really hope the fans don't turn on Ange in that stadium. I really don't, because the way I see it, the only way we're going to succeed and get success is by keeping a manager and letting him put his blueprint out and giving him the time to get it onto the pitch. If we keep sacking managers every 18 months, every other season, we're just going to have all the players excess from the previous manager, have to drill them again. I think the only way forward is getting behind Ange Postecoglou, which I do. I've never turned on a manager and I never will. But I just hope the fans do not turn on Ange Postecoglou if things don't get off to a good start.
Let me ask you then, Brian, going back to 2019, of course, we went to the Champions League final, lost it, and then early November, Pochettino was sacked. What do you make of that decision at that time?
Well, when that happened, I was working in my office in Toronto, and when I heard the news, I smashed my iPad in the office because I was devastated. Whether Pochettino got us to glory, I think 18 months without signing anyone. Literally him saying, I want my players in early every single season, not getting them. I wish we hadn't sacked him. And then this is what I'm talking about. When we sacked him and brought in Jose, we go from attacking football to defensive football. Then we go attack. I was fuming when we lost Poch. Absolutely raging.
Did you get excited when Jose was appointed to think that Spurs might finally lift a trophy?
I was disgusted that we went down that. I was disgusted we went down that avenue, especially seeing that the way I looked at Jose coming in, Daniel Levy had wanted him for ages. The way I see it is, we've seen for 20 years, what he does is he goes into a club, spends hundreds of millions, wins everything, it turns toxic, he leaves. He wasn't going to get the hundreds of millions. I was so against it, but then when I saw his interview, his first press conference, it impressed me. And I thought, you know what, if this guy can't win a trophy at this football club, there's got to be something wrong. Obviously, the football wasn't the way we wanted it to see. Obviously, the fans didn't get to see a lot of him live because COVID came in, so a lot of it was behind closed doors. And then he got us to a final. Would he have won it? Would he have ended the drought? We'll never know. I would say if there was a manager to go up against Guardiola and get the job done, I would have put my money on Jose. So the thing I just don't get is the change of direction in football managers. That's the bit I don't get. I just wish we stuck with one way and had that philosophy so that any manager comes in follows it. And I thought that would lead us to success, but obviously Jose didn't. And then we had the debacle afterwards, didn't we?
We could talk about that all night.
We could do.
Brian, Lee writes here, and thanks for your comment, Lee. According to BBC Sports, Solanke has a release clause of 65 million euros. If Spurs were to go and pay that release clause of 65 million pounds, would you be surprised?
Well, seeing that they wouldn't pay 8 million for Eze, yes, I bloody well would. Yes,
well, you never know, Brian. It could happen.
It could. I mean, who knows? But I literally said it a couple of days ago. Someone on my channel literally mentioned about like when the loan for Lankshear rumour broke again recently and said I could see him at Southampton, and then I just said, now you say Southampton, I can see a Solanke and a Valise, or a Solanke and a Lankshear on loan for a season being a sweetener to kind of bring that down. But I would not want to pay 65 million. Even if it was installments or whatever, I'd rather spend the extra 3 and bring Eze in.
Ryan, Josh writes here, Spurs won't spend that much. Why won't Spurs spend that much? Is it the fact that we've gone out and spent big before on players like Tanguy Ndombele? Do you think they've been put off by that? And when you look back at the successful transfers in the last 12, 18 months, the likes of Vicario, Van der Ven, for instance, and name 2, we didn't spend that much money on those types of players, and it was excellent recruiting. Because as much as you've been, quite negative towards what the club have done in recent years, you've got to see in the last 12 months it has been so much better in terms of identifying players, and the recruitment has been better. But it is so important that does continue.
Listen, there's no doubt there's been an improvement, but we need some big players to go alongside the great work. You can carry on scouting and doing really well, but I think you need some established quality that will come in, proven winners that have been there, done that, to do it. And I honestly think a lot of the reason why these deals aren't going through, from what I've heard, Chris, I don't know if you've heard different, we want Eze, we want to pay the money, but we don't want to pay the large sum up front. It's got to be in installments, as opposed to here's a large proportion of it up front. And that's, from what I'm hearing, is the stumbling block. And when you hear that, and then you hear that Daniel Levy wanted a large amount of money from Harry Kane up front, when he wants a large amount of money from Richarlison if he goes to Saudi Arabia, it works both ways. It works both ways. We've apparently been after Eze for a year, it was rumoured. We knew what the deal was. We knew what the clauses were. And here we are, like you said, 29 days with the window left, and we're exactly where we started.
Brian, give me some quick yes or no's.
Yep.
Do you think that Tony would be a Spurs player on the 1st of September?
If it hadn't been for his injury to his replacement, I would have said yes, but because of it, no.
Eze?
Yes. Yes, please.
Is that more hope than feeling?
I think Eze or Neto come to this football club. One of the two, and I'm hoping it's Eze.
Glenn's 1800 says Neto is decent, but he's always injured. Eze is better. Are you surprised that Spurs are targeting Neto, because his injury record has not been great these last few years?
It's not been great, but you know what? Whenever he comes back firing. I think Neto is an absolute game changer. I think he is an absolutely superb football player. But the injuries are a concern. And the way we have track records with injuries, it worries. It does worry me. But I think if you can keep him fit, he is a game changer. He is an absolute game changer for us.
Brian, there's a couple of comments coming in saying that you can be very negative. How do you reply to that? And let me ask you also, when was the last time you felt really happy as a Spurs fan?
Last season at the Lane. I was going to games and I literally was walking to White Hart Lane, the old White Hart Lane, thinking we're winning this. I didn't think defeat at one point. Obviously, we went undefeated at home. It was exciting. Pochettino united the fans, united the club. Yes, I still didn't feel that way about leaving. Yeah, but listen, people can call me negative. People can call other people that are leaving out negative. They have their right to. I can look at it and say people that have this overwhelming positivity and believe that everything's going to be different, and I believe that could be negative. It's how you look at it. If you want to call me negative, I've grown up in an era where I saw us winning trophies, or at least competing again to finals regularly. I've seen this football club go from strength to strength, and right now, everything that goes on, we've lost our identity as a football club. Don't get me wrong, what Daniel Levy has done for the club on a business and commercial side is nothing short of miraculous. Absolutely, and I will give him all the credit for that. I even say, if I ever got divorced from my wife, I want Daniel Levy to handle the divorce, because I'll take everything from her. He can do, and that he can do really, really well. But I don't live in the world of accountancy and commercial revenue. I live in the land. That pitch that we've got behind us here is where I base results and what I want to see. And I feel that my football club has become a business, not a football club. And I understand some of it's the way of it. And people can see me as negative, and that's your right to do it. But myself and others only want the best for the club. If we sign Gyökeres, Neto, and Eze, and let's just say a defender, people like myself will have, I've said it before, I will go onto every channel and go, do you know what? Well done, Daniel. Well done. You've put the club first. This is what we want to see. We'll shut up. We'll shut up. But you don't do it. He hasn't done it. And that's the situation. And if people want to call me negative, they can do. But all I want is my football club to win trophies and compete.
Brian, I've said to you, when we met in the street, I think you were surprised on how much you and I agreed on.
Yeah,
when you look at channels like this, and of course me running them, do you think that I'm over positive, and do you think that this channel can be over positive sometimes about what happens at our football club?
Chris, but listen, I tell you how it is. There have been times where I've thought, yes, you have been. Listen, you and me, when we met, that was when we were doing the Manchester United protest, and you were doing your bit for Sky Sports. We came and had a chat, and the thing is, obviously, you have said the same thing as me on occasions, but rather than shouting, screaming, ranting, raving, like I have done, or been very, very forthright and outspoken, you've said it in a different way. And there are times where there have been channels, and I've said it, and I've said it since I've been on your show last time. A load of people said that you won't have anyone leave you out on, you're on the payroll, you're this, you're that. And you know you've heard it. And listen, it looked that way. But then when, this is the bit, people was having a go at you, saying you don't have him on and you're a Levy lover, you're this, you're that. But then when Levy out people were saying he never has them on, he never has them on, he just won't do it. I come on and then I get it from people saying I'm a sellout. So
Right, like I've said to you when we met, and like I've said to you on this stream, and like I said to you before, I have never, ever once said to anyone who comes on this channel, on this podcast, that you cannot talk about X, Y, and Z. Everyone comes on and gives their opinions, their views on how they're feeling. And I think it is very, very important to have that real mix of, you know, if you like, super positive people that are very down, sad, angry about what's happening at the football club or what's gone on in the past. Hence why people like you are on. I think many people are surprised that you're even on this channel, and were surprised a couple of weeks ago when I invited you on. As I've said, everyone is welcome. And, you know, I've never, ever once said to anybody that you cannot say X, Y, or Z. And I have seen a number of people in the past say, you know, I don't say certain things because the channel has sponsors. Now, I can also say that not ever has any sponsor said to me, you cannot say X, Y, and Z. And I'll tell you now, Brian, if any sponsor or anyone said to me that I couldn't speak freely about what I want to talk about on this channel, about my club that I support so dearly, then I would have nothing to do with them, because that's just not me. I feel like I'm very opinionated, just because sometimes I don't sit here shouting, swearing, throwing things, whatever. No problem if people want to do that. That's not me. But as I've said to you, you're always very welcome on this channel, and anyone else, whatever views they have, they're always welcome on this channel to express how we're all feeling, because some people are super positive about this window so far, saying, you know, players for the future, youngsters for the future, Andrew's building for the future. And then, of course, there are some people very, very worried at the moment, and we have that real mix on. So, yeah, but as I said to you, I think that you are probably quite surprised on how much that we do agree on. But at the end of the day, no matter what opinions we have, how we all feel, we all want the same thing, and that is success.
Chris, you're right. Listen, I've said before, and I've said it on my channel, Tottenham on Tour, and I've said it on other channels I've been on recently. I have normally predominantly been on or asked on Levy Out channels or We Are Tottenham TV, all these channels, and I have always spoken Levy Out, Levy Out, Levy. And that's because that's how I feel. Now, whether people want to take that on board, that is entirely up to them. But what got to me is myself and many others, and I do mean many others, organised protests, whether it be outside the training ground, whether it be opposite the club shop. And what I noticed from last season to this season is, and I'm only talking about the fans that go to the game. When I go on these channels, all these people say, oh yeah, we're going to come, we'll be there, as in we'll have the big numbers. And I'm only talking about the fans that are going to the game. And then when it comes to it, it's the same crowd every single time. The crowd that I am a part of proudly and love to bits. Some other people do come. We had a fan come from Finland fly over. We had a guy that comes down from Scotland in Brian Maguire who drove down just so. We had people that come down from Hartlepool that have said we'll be there. But then fans that say they're going to the ground and they'll be there don't turn up. It's just talk on a chat or Twitter. So like, do you know what? Preaching to the converted doesn't work. The only way, because the fans are just loggerheads the whole time, the only way to try and get a better understanding of each other is to talk and put your points across, whether you're pro-Levy, against Levy, pro-Ange, against Ange, and see where people are coming from and not just think, because I've been said I'm an alcohol. Listen, all we do is drink. I'm 16 years clean of alcohol. Oh, we're selling drugs. It's nonsense.
The thing is, you mentioned when we met there and I was doing the Sky Sports interview,
yeah.
I even mentioned on Sky Sports that you guys were doing the protest.
Yep.
I'm not one of those guys who have got my head in the sand and think that everything is fantastic. When I feel something, then I say something. And when I see something going on, you know, even my 60-second Spurs news updates or the Tottenham news videos that I've put out, I've mentioned the protests on many occasions. Yeah. And, you know, I can't report on what is going on at the football club if I'm very one-sided. I'll report everything that is good and everything that is bad. And that's why I feel like these sorts of discussions are very, very important to have because, you know, people can think what they like about me or say what they like about me. I've seen enough of it on X. It's, you know, the place is toxic sometimes with yep. some people and their opinions. But, you know, we're all different types of people. Just because I do things in perhaps a little bit more of a professional way than some others, it doesn't mean that I feel any differently to some people. It's just the way it is. Let's crack on because
let's do it.
Brian, Stevie Fraser writes here, a massive no to Tammy Abraham. We've been linked with Tammy Abraham again and have been earlier on in the window. Similar to a comment that come in before, if it's not going to be Solanke and it's not going to be Abraham and it's not going to be Ivan Toney, who is it going to be?
That's a $64 million or £1 million question, isn't it? You look at it, and I think you can see from those three we've mentioned, the one thing they've got in connection is English and homegrown. And Spurs are very, very wary that we do need that. And I agree with that. I just don't think right now there is an English striker, barring Toney, but I think that ship has sailed. And I was like you, Chris, at the beginning of the window, really didn't want him. Started warming to the idea and thinking, do you know what, maybe he could do a job. And I thought Spurs are probably just waiting for that number to drop and hit the right number, then they pounce. But with the injury to their replacement, I think that's dead. It just comes down to, it looks like they've identified an English striker, or looking for an English striker, should I say. And can you think of another English striker that's available that would fit the quota we're looking for?
No, not that he's going to take this club to the next level, no.
Exactly. So I'm hoping we go English with Eze, and we might go European. I mean, people have been saying Openda. There's other strikers. Like I said, I really want Gyökeres. I mentioned another player. We're talking Solanke. I mentioned a player that I really want, that really splits opinion, is Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he'd be absolutely... Chris, you'll probably remember, you were probably at the game, the 3-2 win against Wolves.
To take us to that next level, Brian, you want Morgan Gibbs-White? I
put it this way, I'd rather him than a Solanke. I think Morgan Gibbs-White... Were you at the game, Chris, when Jan Foyth gave away those 2 penalties, and we won 3.
Yeah.
That Morgan Gibbs-White was playing in that game, and he was about 17 or so, and I thought he was excellent. And again, you say you put him around players. I've seen a couple of people put in the comments, Jonathan David. You put a Jonathan David or a Morgan Gibbs-White around the quality we have, I think Morgan Gibbs-White excels at Tottenham. I really do.
Brian, what do you think about Ange Postecoglou? It's been widely reported constantly saying that he wants a versatile forward. Do we not just need a traditional number 9?
Yes, we do. But I can see why he wants a versatile forward as well. And I think the one is Jonathan David for versatility. People will go on about, no, he's no good. I get to see him a lot for Canada. And the quality he has for around him for Canada isn't the greatest. He's done it in France. I think if you put him in the Tottenham team, he does well. In fact, if he goes to another Premier League team by Christmas, I think a majority of this fan base going, oh, we've missed a trick there. It's in the last year of his contract, 25 mil. I think Jonathan David can do a good job at Tottenham. I really do. What's your thoughts on David, Chris?
I don't know. I don't think he takes us to the next level. I want to be moving on, and I want to be, signing the best players in Europe. I don't know. I'm not taken by it. I don't.
Let me rephrase it. Let's say we get another. I want not him to be our main number 9. If we get a Gyökeres or whatever, then a David. I think.
But it's all ifs. It's all ifs, isn't it?
Of course. If someone turned around to me and said, "Right, Jonathan David comes in, that's our striker done," I'm like, hell no. If we get,
do you know what, Brian? What I want to see in these windows, I want to be wowed. I want that player or players to come in and go, oh my God, this is amazing. How exciting. We're going to be title contenders. That's how I want to feel.
Correct. Well, this is when you go back to it, I look at it, you mentioned Jurgen Klinsmann. You could say Van der Vaart was kind of like at that pinnacle. But if you look at it, and we'll go back, when people talk about the Champions League and Champions League money and how it entices the big name players and how you get the superstars because they want Champions League football. Well, we've had Champions League football quite regularly. And out of those years that we've been in, the 2 Champions League worthy and I think ready and quality players was Van der Vaart and Perisic. And both of them were at the top coming down as opposed to right at the peak of their powers. No, that Champions League money hasn't enticed Champions League elect players. It's enticed players that want to play the Champions League.
Yeah.
So when you say we want to be wowed, this is, seriously, under Daniel Levy's ownership, Chris, who would you say has made you think, wow, there we go?
Well, I told you, the last wow signing for me was Klinsmann.
But there you go. Exactly.
We've don't get me wrong, though, we've had some exceptional players. But when I'm thinking about signing a player who is world class coming to the club, when they're world class,
don't get me wrong. The players like your Bowles, your Berbatovs, and we could go on. Your Modric, they've come in, and your Vertongans, and you could Dembele, you could mention them all. Ginola, they all came and went through the roof. But the actual genuine world class or almost world class elect superstars, they just haven't come. And we've been told this window will be different. That's the problem. That is the problem.
Brian, if I'm going to give you a big if here.
Okay.
If Spurs signed Ivan Toney or Dominic Solanke, so one of them, plus Eze and Neto, would you be thinking, oh my God, we're title contenders?
I wouldn't say title contenders, but I would say well done, bloody Daniel Levy, and well done to the club for getting that done. That Andrew said he wants to revitalise that front line. That what you just said is a revitalised front line.
What do you think is on Andrew's shopping list right now?
Well, I hate to say it, and I know one of my friends is in here, Ryan. I think from what I've been told, Gallagher was his number 1 be all and end all. He really wanted Gallagher. I didn't want him, but again, I can understand why and what he brings and what he could do for Ange. But I think that was his number 1. It doesn't look like we're going to get him. I don't want him to come. If he comes, as soon as you hold the shirt, I support you. You're a Spurs player. I think that was him. I think he wants a striker. I really, really think he wants a striker and a winger. And I know Eze, I'm putting plays together now. Eze and Neto are the two he wants. But if you said that front line, if it was, let's say Tony, I'd be happy with Tony than I would Solanke.
Brian, if Spurs didn't sign anyone now for the rest of the window and the season started, what would you be thinking, and where would Spurs end up, do you think?
If Spurs didn't bring anyone in right now, I would really worry for Ange. Not because I wouldn't say on Ange. I'd worry about what this club or where we would be. We are not ready for. If we finished 5th last season, does Bergvall, Archie Gray, I think is a magnificent signing. Does Timo Werner, Bergvall, and Archie Gray scream 5th or above to me? No. I think Newcastle, if they get their injuries better than last season, could be a huge threat again. We'll see what happens with Manchester United. I would say I would think 6th, 7th, if the window shut right now. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the youngsters could come in and exceed expectations. But I would say if a lot of Spurs fans, and I don't want to put words in people's mouth, Chris, I mean, if the window shut, I'm saying 6th or 7th with this team right now. If it's shut right now, what would you say?
I think it's a big if though, Brian, because I believe Spurs will sign some players.
You said big if to me. That's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
Big if. Big if.
We need enforcements in this window desperately. It's absolutely imperative that we sign a number 9. I think that Spurs need to have different options in that final third. Andrew's criticised that final third so often in his opening 12 months at the club. We need different options. When you look at the amount of injuries, suspensions and other issues on and off the pitch last season, we need the depth. It has to happen. And if Spurs want to get back into the Champions League, and if we are trying to put that trophy in the cabinet that has been way overdue for so long, we've got to improve the squad 100%. And especially, Brian, as well, we've not even mentioned Pierre-Emile Højbjerg going out the door. I think a lot of people forget the amount of important work that he did. He was Angie's most used sub last season, and he would bring him on 10, 15 minutes to go or whatever it was in a lot of games to shore things up and sweep up, all the crap at the end of matches.
Yep.
And help the defence, which we needed towards the end of the season. I think we're going to really miss him. Do you?
Under Jose and Conte, I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I think in Jose's first season, obviously he had the cane and stuff, but I thought he was absolutely pivotal. I thought he was magnificent. Not so much last season, but I think off the pitch, he's a big miss. Off the pitch. On the pitch, I don't think he's suited for Ange Ball, whatever that may be, and hopefully we'll see. But also, Chris, just going back to what you mentioned about the league, we got to remember, if this window shuts like it is right now, we're playing in 4 competitions.
Yeah.
And this team at a push, that's going to be a huge issue. Look how we did with only 1 game a week. You start playing in 4 competitions. It's a big ask. It's a big ask. But yeah, Højbjerg, I think the first 2 seasons was great. Under Ange, I didn't see the Pierre of old.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially with the young talent, I'm all for giving the youngsters, game time in competitions. But of course, you do need that experience to get the job done in the first place. I'm a big fan of having the development players on the bench and then giving them, say, the last 20, 30 minutes of matches once we've got the job done. But the Europa League, is a competition that Spurs should go far in, and you never know. But even, you know, Pochettino, I loved him as Spurs manager. It used to frustrate the hell out of me, Brian, that we used to play in the Europa League in his first season on the Thursday. And then, of course, he'd always be worrying about that Sunday game. So we'd put like a weakened team out. And then, like, if we'd lost the Sunday game, it's like, well, we've ballsed it up on a Thursday, and then we've ballsed it up on the Sunday as well. It's like, you know, play your best 11.
You say that, Chris. I will say as well, if you look at it, and we stay on this track that if the window closed tomorrow, we've got what we've got. I would say the Europa League is the easiest or the clearer way for Champions League football, rather than trying to go for fourth. So if we got to the latter stages, would you want him to do the opposite of Pochettino and go, right, Thursday is where we can really attack it and get Champions League football, as opposed to top four? Because I can't see with the team right now that we're qualifying or we're getting top four this season.
That's a whole new argument, O'Brien. Do you think that the club view the Premier League games as the most important, rather than, as you've just said, going further on in the Europa League to then think that, you know, winning that competition could get you a place in the Champions League? Do you think that the Premier League games are more important than those?
To the owner, I think so, yes. But I will say, in return of that, we all there's so many different reasons behind why we think Jose got sacked. Was it people were saying he had bonuses in his contract, which I don't believe. What I believe happened is he wanted to rest players for Southampton, so the players were fit for Man City in the Carabao Cup, and obviously there was a huge fallout there. I don't know if we look that we're getting further into the Champion or the Europa League, and the bigger possibility is to get Champions League via that way or top four. Would the mindset switch? That's where I look at it. I think he favours league position over glory every single day of the week.
I actually think Jose would have won that cup.
Apparently, I looked at it at Barcelona. Pep had won every single final for Barcelona except one, and obviously that man was Jose Mourinho. I think whether it would have happened, I mean, he threw Ryan Mason completely under the bus. That was completely, Ryan Mason weren't ready. I share the same feeling that we probably would have won it with Jose.
Brian, Amanda Staveley, a number of comments want us to discuss that situation. She'd come out and said, and I'm paraphrasing now, about her love for Newcastle. It's going to be very difficult to buy into or own another club because of that love for Newcastle. What do you make of this situation? Would you like to see someone like her invest into someone like Spurs and buy a 10% stake? Because the Times reported a couple of days ago that Spurs want fresh funds for the transfer market, for the hotel, and of course an academy for the Spurs women. What do you make of the story? How realistic do you think that is? And would you like to see a 10% stake of the club sold to somebody else?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. What I will say with Amanda Staveley is, I don't know, Chris, did you watch the Newcastle documentary? We Are
Newcastle one, no.
Okay, so I watched it, and if anyone has watched it or has what I recommend it. Obviously, we know that the cameras can make everything look different, like we did with Tottenham with All or Nothing. Amanda Staveley comes across really well. It's actually a really good documentary. Whether you like the ownership or whatever, it's actually a very well put together documentary.
Do you know what, Brian? Sorry to interrupt. One of the Newcastle, the Magpie channel, Matty at the Magpie channel,
okay,
he actually got to interview Amanda Staveley when she was in her position at Newcastle on his YouTube channel. And I thought at the time, how good does that look from a football club's point of view, that they are engaging with channels like this, like you run as well. How good is it that they're engaging, answering the questions that the fans wanted the answers to? Now, of course, we know that Spurs have been heavily criticised for that over the years, and of course, we did have a couple of videos out from Fabio. There needs to be a little bit more communication, I feel, as well. Yeah,
I mean, that's what I was going to say, Chris. On this video, on the documentary, you see that looks like the kind of person that Amanda Staveley is. They heavily show what she was doing to get Anthony Gordon over the line. They showed what, and again, like I said, we saw Daniel Levy on our documentary eating breakfast in the cafeteria or whatever he was doing. But you saw Amanda Staveley try to, and again, this could be filmed to look that way. You just saw she was more, although she wanted to invest in the business, she really did have passion for Newcastle. She really did want to give the Geordie fans glory or success. And you, like you just said, I didn't know she did that on a Newcastle channel, which is incredible to hear. You don't hear that with many football teams, let alone with ours. So I think Amanda Staveley, for the footballing side, may be something. I just want to have another voice in the room, Chris. Just another voice in the room.
Brian, with that said, let me ask you, would you welcome, do you think the clubs, in particular Spurs, would ever go down the route of wanting fan channels like yours, like mine? Do you think that they would ever engage with those types of things?
I think with me, with my channel, there is a massive do not touch from the owner. I wish they would. I'm not talking about my channel. I would love, like you said, I would love to see a more open approach where there is talk about where we're going, what we're doing. I look at it and I look at that. I look at that AGM that he chucked during Angie's successful beginning. Would he have done that with Antonio Conte, where it's getting, but before the Brentford game, when the Levy out crowd were getting very, very loud? Obviously, we have the famous thing of him being rubbed on the knee by his wife. Would he chuck an AGM then? Not on his life.
Do you know what, Brian? I've also said to people who work for the club that I believe that they should do that type of thing every 3 months, every 6 months, regardless of how the mood is, regardless of what the results have just been. Because I do agree, I think the timing did work out perfectly well, that everyone was on a high, everyone was in a good mood. I do think that communication does need to be there. But do you ever think that will happen? Do you ever think that, with that, the fans forum, what did you make of that? Because people, on X, I know we'll go back to that again. Yep. People thought that the likes of me would be invited. I wasn't, but there were a number of people very critical of the board. They were there that night.
So I'm not a season ticket holder or member, so I would never have got one anywhere. All I saw were the bits from X. I would have thought if someone like myself or people that are recognised that know or would speak out would have been given the chance to speak. Whether they had that opportunity and didn't take it, don't know. Like I said, I wish this club would do some more stuff where people like yourself or myself or Ben and Simon, We Are Tottenham TV, Tottenham Away, any channel could actually ask them some questions and ask the questions that the fans want to hear. And not just the fans that are delighted with the direction we're going. People like myself. I would love to be able to say, here's 5 questions, send it to Donna Cullen or whoever it may be, and the club answer it. I'd love to see that. Just some communication.
Have you done that?
I'm banned from sending Daniel Levy emails. I tried to send him a video when the Super League was created, and I realised that the videos were too big to send. So then I realised that I would send him links to every single rant I went on. I can't do that no more. I've tried other ways. It's at the point, like I said, I just don't think he listens. You hear the trust say they won't listen.
I was going to ask you that, Brian, about the official supporters trust, and of course, in the last year or so, there is the fan advisory board, the FAB. Yep. What do you make of these organisations? What do you make of their meetings? I don't know whether you read the minutes on a regular basis, but what do you make of them? Do you think that they have much of a say? Do you think that they do a good job? And would you one day like to be a part of the FAB or the trust?
Again, I would love more people like myself to be on the fan advisory board, but it won't happen. It just won't.
Why? Why not?
Because I just don't see it being allowed. I just don't think under any stretch of the imagination.
But they're fans, Brian.
I know they're fans.
And you know what? You said that you thought I was let me choose my words carefully here. You thought I was a positive fan, and many people see you as a very negative fan. So some people could say that we're like chalk and cheese, although I feel like I speak out a lot of the time on how I feel and about what the club need. But on social media, when people were going to be on the Fab, people wouldn't want people like you on it. And people said that they don't want people like me on it. So who do they want?
See, this is the thing. This is, we did a show with the Trust a few weeks ago. Now, I have been very, very outspoken about the Trust, about their lack of support in the Levy out protests, their abysmal ticketing pricing they've done, the fact that they just haven't given us fans a voice. I understand that the Supporters Trust, for when it comes for allocating tickets, people that have had issues with the club, whether it's people with disabilities and need help, I get that part they do for the Trust. We did a bit with the Trust, and we had Martin on, and we did it, and he got to speak out about things. I should have pushed back a bit more on a few things. Looking back, I wish I had, but I got a better understanding of what they do. I have nothing. I don't know anything about the Fab. For me, that was just cheers, Shorty boy. For me, that was just I still don't understand it. There are there's a couple of people there that I don't agree with, and I'm not going to get onto that on here. But yeah, I just don't understand it, and I think every time people like me, or whether people like me or not, there's tons of other Levy out people that aren't as outspoken as me, or have a channel, can speak more elegantly and more and calmer. I'm sure they would get a chance, and I'd welcome that. I'd appreciate it. I just don't see us being able to, as long as Levy, he has to have control, and I just do not see him wanting anyone like ourselves on, and by any means necessary, I don't think it would happen.
Right, let's move on to some more questions. John Slade writes, how many rounds of meetings can it possibly take to sell Emerson Royal?
Well, listen, we're getting closer and closer. We're in the final steps. The countdown's been on. Like I said, this time last year, I was going mental with every single ITK thing. I have snapped it, or not snapped. I have retweeted the Fabrizio Romano and Solanke. But I've taken a step back, and I just find this comical. The buzzwords and bingos, I think there's still a few more rounds of talks and a few more flights of stairs to get closer than close. What about you, Chris?
I think Emerson Royal's got to go. From what I understand and from what I hear, Spurs are in no rush to get the deal done, because it's all about money and about getting that right fee in. I do understand it. I was a little surprised to see him start the game in South Korea against Team K League, because we do seem to be very close on selling the player. So I would give somebody else the opportunity. But, also what I've heard, that Team K League, everyone involved there, they were very impressed with Emerson Royal's performance. And they thought he was one of the best players on the pitch, which, it's a strange one. But, of course, I feel like he's had a very tough time. A lot of fans were on his back at one point. I do feel that he is improved. But, again, Brian, as I always say, if we want to move on and we want to show ambition and we want to move forward as a football club, players like Emerson Royal, they need to go.
They do. And if you look at it, again, this is the perfect example of what frustrates the fans, and I'm not just talking about Levy. You look at it, we bought him as a right back to play for Nuno.
Yeah.
Then we got rid of him and brought in Jose, who didn't trust him. Then we brought in Conte, who tried to play him as a wing back. He's not a wing back. Then he has not had. I think he goes to Italy as a right back and thrived. I really do. We just keep bringing in different managers that play different styles of football and just say, right, you were a right back, now you're a right wing. It doesn't work with all the players. And he has had a tough run. I don't think he's a good player. I think he had a good spell under Conte at the end of his peak when he started playing more advanced, but he's not good enough to take Tottenham where we need to be.
Yeah. Brian, Craig Dock says, I'm never coming to the comments section again. Talk about making people depressed. As I said, there's a lot of unhappy people right now.
Yeah, listen, this is the thing, and this is the big problem. Because you and I are doing a show, or because anyone, I've got straight away there's people, and I saw them at the beginning, they come on with their fake names and whatever, whether it be at you or whether it be at me, it's what they do. It's what they do. I used to really let this affect me, and I used to really, really bite, and it's just sad. It's just sad. You know what? If people want to say, if it's aimed at me, Chris, then crack on and you carry on doing what you do.
Brian, I've always said I actually block more people on X than I follow. And if people don't like what I do, then just block me or unfollow or whatever. It's fine. In life, you like people, you don't like certain people, you walk on, you move on with your life. You be happy, I'll be happy, we carry on. The one thing that I don't really accept, and that's people being personal and making personal comments and being disrespectful and just being, downright rude. I don't accept that. So whether it's in the street or whether it's online or whatever it is, you go your way, I'll go mine. It's very simple. We've all got opinions. And as I keep saying to you, and as I say to everyone on this channel, we all want the same thing. We're all Spurs fans. And, people like me and you, people wouldn't have put us together on a podcast. And I think it actually works very well. And like I said to you before, Brian, I think you and I are probably quite surprised on how, much we do agree.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before, and I've said it on my shows when I've been speaking about you. And this was before the show we came on. It was actually after we spoke at the Manchester United game when I saw you in the street. And sometimes I look at it and that music show The Voice, where people obviously have their seats turned around and you can't see what they look like. You only judge by their singing and what they're saying. And I've said, when you look at some channels, and I'm not saying this for every channel, if you actually listen to what people are saying rather than going, oh, it's this channel, they'll leave you in, or it's that channel, they'll leave you out, and actually listen to what they're saying, a lot of it may be similar. It's just the way you're delivering the message. Now, what I chose to do myself, last year I suffered with horrific, and this year really bad health issues, both physically and mentally. I went through horrid abuse. As a Jewish guy, I was having Holocaust stuff sent to me saying this is what we wish for your family. And I was like, whoa. And normally I'd snap. But I was like, do you know what? Like you just said, Chris, block, move on, not worth it. Change the message, have the same message, change the delivery, and people might actually listen to what people are saying as opposed to just assuming. And that's the way I've gone down now, whether people like the new, put it this way, like you said, window closes tomorrow and it's like this. Will I be a little bit more vocal and a little bit more irate? Hell yeah. Am I going to be the Brian of last year shouting and screaming and calling everyone out? No.
Yeah. No one should have to have the abuse online. Certainly when, I get abuse for even going to the Spurs games, Brian. It's like, oh, come on, give me a break. It's, I do what I love. I go and see Spurs all the time. I absolutely love doing that. It's like, how can you get abuse for just watching your football club? Yes, I have an opinion on the football club, and I say positive things when I'm feeling positivity, and I feel like I've been quite negative in this chat about the football club so far, and there is 29 days to go, and let's face it, you and I could sit here and be grumpy, saying, oh, we haven't done enough in the transfer window, but there is 29 days left. In 29 days time, me and you could be sitting here going, oh my God, that's the best window we've ever had.
Correct. It could be the other way as well. That's the thing. And knowing the way Spurs work, we'll finish this stream and we'll get here. We go for Gyökeres and Neto, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, what we just been talking about." I think I honestly think the next player Spurs announce is Neto. I seriously think the next. Yeah.
Brian, I think this comment's for you. Stop being a happy clapper. It can't be me.
Listen, that's the thing. People, I don't get it. People have their views. We're here right now having a discussion, and we're both discussing the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think the ugly's been spoken about more.
Yeah.
And it's just how people want to interpret it. That's what it comes down to.
Brian, why haven't we not won a trophy in 16 years?
Daniel Levy. Listen, I will say him. I always say, because people go, "Oh, we lost a game. How is that Daniel Levy's fault?" And they are right with that part. But what I will say is, and I have this saying that I use, that I always say, as soon as the players cross that white line, the result and the performance has absolutely nothing to do with Daniel Levy. But the very fact they're putting on the shirt and crossing that white line has everything to do with him. Because we've kept players for too long. We let contracts go down. We send them out on loan. Players that we desperately need don't come in. Managers have 18 months without being able to buy anyone. So you look at it there, we've gone through, 16 managers, 6 directors of football. Some of those directors of football have come out and said what a nightmare it is to work with him. We've heard talks that when AVB was in charge, he wanted Martinho, the Hulk, and other players. He didn't get any of them. He wanted Christian Eriksen, I believe, and one more. But then was told, Baldini brings the players in, you coach them. I put a lot of the responsibility, a majority of the responsibility, down to Daniel Levy. I don't know how you feel on that.
Brian, do you feel like that has changed, though, in the last 12 months or 18 months since, or even, longer than that, since Fabio Paratici come in? Now, of course, Scott Munn is there. Johan Lang is there as well. Do you think that Daniel Levy has given more responsibility to these guys and he has taken a little step back from some of these deals?
I must admit, I did think it. And then when obviously the tweet came out about Archie Gray and Daniel Levy had a lot to do it, I think the setup is there to do it. It's whether he will take a step back. Do I think Ange has been told, and Mackenzie, Lange, and if Paratici is still involved in some capacity, said, right, here's a check with X amount, this is the balance. Just give me a call when I need to sign it. No, I don't think he's done that. I think he is still involved. But I believe what Paratici has done with gutting the youth and bringing in this kind of transfer team is the right way to go. I believe that is the right way to go, and things can move forward if he can stay away from football and focus on business. And that's the bit I'm struggling with. It would take Chris about 5 seasons of managers being backed for me to think he's changed.
Do you think it will ever change?
I really wish it would. And like I said, there's nothing more I'd love to do than come on and go, do you know what? I've been such an idiot. I was wrong all along. He was right. It was all part. I'd love to be able to say it, but I can't. Every year I've said I want to come on shows or go on Twitter and go, do you know what? I was wrong. Do you know what? This has shown me some kind of difference of direction. And it hasn't. We sign it, like we said, the 3 up top that you mentioned. It's a big shove in the right direction to go, right, continue doing that. Continue doing that. I mean, Chris, the one thing that drives me mad, I'll get your thoughts on this. I don't know how many people are watching or what they think about what I'm about to say as well. It's why do we hear at Tottenham that we're waiting for the other players, for the other clubs to sign their replacements before they get sold to us? Why do we never bring in the replacement or the player we want, then get rid of the player? That's how I think a football club should run. You're right. Van der Ven only came when Wolfsburg found a replacement. We need players now, but we've let the players go before the real players in, and that really annoys me.
We don't technically know that though, Brian, do we?
By looking at it, if you look at it, Vertonghen, how long did it take to find Van der Ven?
Yeah, but there's always all these stories of we need to offload players before we buy them. That should never be like that at a club like Spurs. I get it that we're going for a major rebuild, and we need to rotate the squad, and a lot of the deadwood, so to speak, have gone out the door. Spurs have done a good job in that department, in my opinion. But it is now about bringing in the players. But as I say, there is 29 days left. We never know. We could be in a very, very good mood in 4 weeks' time.
I really, there's nothing that will please me more. I really, really hope. Like I said, I will go back to say, like we said just before, Van der Ven only came in a week before the season. No one is complaining about what he did. I think for me, he was my player of the season. I love that man. I think the club did incredible finding him, getting him, and he's just settled hand in glove. That could happen again. We'll have to wait and see. But again, as it could finish, it could also be the other way. I just hope it's that way.
Brian Peter writes, Brian Hill was worse than Ndombele. I wonder why we didn't trust him. What did you make of Brian Hill's time at Tottenham?
Pathetic. But only, and again, the reason I say pathetic is, first of all, £23 million and Eric Lamela already seemed like an extortionate deal price-wise. He's come in, and again, we've had manager after manager after manager after manager, different philosophies, different styles. We've sent him off to loan to Spain where he's comfortable every time. I remember I was fortunate to be at the game where I thought he was magnificent, the 4-0 away at Palace under Antonio Conte. And when he has been given the chance, he hasn't taken it. I think he'll go to Spain and do well again.
That's such a good point. When you look at this pre-season, the way that these youngsters have grabbed their opportunities.
Yep.
You know, when players like Brian Hill had opportunities, there's so many players I could mention about grabbing opportunities. It's so important to do that, isn't it?
Yep, it is. And he had it with Nuno. He had it with Conte, but Conte got rid. They all, whatever reason, he didn't fit their profile. I don't even think he fitted Nuno's profile. We brought him in with Nuno, and I was just like, I don't know why he came in, and it's a shame for him because he's wasted 5 years of his career. We couldn't get rid of him. He had good loans at Sevilla and Valencia. They weren't interested in after the loan. And I would have liked to have seen Jamie Donnelly get the minutes that he got. If we know he's not going to work, I don't know why we didn't give. If someone hasn't got a future at the club, why are we giving him minutes compared to someone that could be the very heartbeat of it in a few years' time, or even now?
Brian, a couple of comments about Oliver Skipp. We heard reports, or we saw reports in the week stating that Spurs might be offering him a new contract. House writes, Skippy needs to be sold. He is average. Jim Clark says Skipp is a championship player. What do you make of Oliver Skipp? How much game time, if he stays at Spurs for next year, do you think he'll get?
Listen, I think Ollie Skipp under Conte at the beginning, before he got his injury at the Steven Bergwijn game at Leicester, was playing very, very well. Again, in a Conte system. That's the kind of system I see him in, not an Ange Postecoglou. And if I'm honest right now, I would rather give Alfie Devine a chance because I said to you last time I was on, I think Alfie Devine is ahead of him already. I think Archie Gray is miles ahead of him already. I think he's staying again because it's that homegrown quota. I can't see him playing or fitting into an Ange Postecoglou system. I just can't. I don't know what you feel, Chris, with him. I would get rid, but I understand because of the homegrown.
Do you know what, Brian? When, of course, I go to most of the under-21 games, and when he was just 17, he was playing the under-21s. He was a cut above the rest. He was the best player on the pitch by a country mile, no matter who the opposition was. A very, very talented player. And like Jose Mourinho, I completely agreed at the time, our future captain. Now, I don't see a future for Oliver Skipp if we want to move to that next level. I keep talking about players, you know, moving us to that next level.
Yep.
I don't think Oliver Skipp is that player. I think he'll be a great player for someone like Norwich City. Of course, he had a great loan spell there. I feel like there is, you know, so many clubs, you know, that could take an Oliver Skipp. But as I keep saying, Brian, take us to that next level. Exactly. Premier Hotspur TV writes here, evening, Chris and Brian. Great guest again. I think we need to wait until the end of the window to see what happens, but I'm very impressed in our young talent so far. See, Brian, is this another Spurs channel being super positive like me?
Yeah, listen, I know Simon personally. Big up to you, Simon. He's a great guy. He even drove down to come to one of the protests, and he doesn't go to the games because of the distance he travels. Like I've said, and like we said throughout this could drastically change in 29 days. It could. There's no denying it. And if it does, brilliant. I am this season. I've said to myself, after what happened with the Bentancur and Kulusevski on deadline day when it got pulled out at the last minute, this window, I'm waiting till the window closes. Once the window closes and we know what it is, then we'll see, and then the opinions can be made. I just want to say a big special to Michael Green, who likes to spam the chat. So yeah, carry on, mate. But yeah, we'll see at the end of the window. We'll see at the end of the window, Chris. It could be great. It could be trouble.
Brian, I normally read every message that comes in, but as you can see, there are hundreds and thousands of messages keep pouring in. So thank you so much for all of your comments and questions and support of the channel. Please do keep them coming. I'm going to keep Brian on here for another 20 minutes or so because we're getting through a lot here. Ricardo writes, "You've looking good. Give them more of a go. A lot of other teams have a lot of gems." An interesting one, Brian, because I've asked this on the last couple of podcasts to the guests, that we've got a great, set of players at the moment, the development side. They've gone out to Japan and South Korea, and of course they played in the games against Hearts and QPR as well, really grabbing their opportunities. But some of these players are going to be disappointed. Some of these players are going to go back to the under-21. Some will go out on loan. Some will make it in the first team squad. How does Ange manage this situation? Who would you like to see get more of an opportunity next season?
See, this is the thing, is I'm torn between loans and first team, so I don't know what best suits their development. I'll start with Alfie Devine, who is my number one love out of the youth team. I think he has been unsung for what he has done. Big up, Matty, for what he has done in this pre-season, because obviously everyone wanted to see the Moores, the Donnellys, the Bergvalls, the Greys. I'm torn whether Alfie Devine being around the first team and getting time in the cup competitions is best for him, or is going out and getting regular first team football in the championship, a high championship team that's going to play the kind of football Ange wants him to play, will be beneficial. Yeah. That's the problem that I'm having with some of these players. I'd like to see Donnelly stay. And I don't know, Chris, how you feel as well. With Donnelly, I think he's being used as left back right now, just in case Destiny's not fit for Leicester.
The great thing about Jamie Donnelly is the fact that he is so versatile. And I know, we've spoken a little bit about Ange loving versatile players. Donnelly is so versatile. He can play virtually anywhere across the pitch. And I love the fact that, him playing left back, grabbing opportunities. Like I always say on this podcast, you've got to grab your opportunity. You never know when you're going to get another one. And all of these young players have certainly done that. And he has certainly done it. But like you say about the development side of things, is it best at that age if they're not going to be playing week in, week out? And as you mentioned about Alfie Devine and another one, Ashley Phillips, they've both gone out on loan to Plymouth. They've come back. They've had a really successful loan spells. They're so used to playing every minute, every week. So when they come back, yes, they've grabbed opportunities, during pre-season. But when the season starts against Leicester away, then what? Then what, Brian? Because a lot of these players would be thinking, God, I've done really well during pre-season. How am I not in the squad? But of course, the squad, you can't fit everybody in. So some of them will go back to the under-21. Some of them will then be knocking on Andrew's door saying, what happened? I thought I'd done really well during pre-season. But of course, some of them are going to then be pushing for loans because some of them want that game time.
Well, this is it. And we've got to be careful because I agree, we've got a brilliant crop of youngsters coming through. And we've got to make sure the pathway is right for them. And I don't see, if all of them stayed, they're not going to be happy. They're going to be, I want out, I want first team football, whether that be permanently or out on loan. And I think a lot of them are going to gain a lot more experience and grow into the game more in their positions if they go out on loan. this is the hard one for Ange Postecoglou. It's the headache, isn't it? It's who's done enough on pre-season, who do I see getting minutes, and how do I keep these guys happy? Because that crop that we've got there, potentially, and we all love that word, potentially in a few years could do some incredible things for Tottenham, but more important is the now.
What about Will Lankshear? What have you made of him?
I think the reason that Valise, Scarlett and Lankshear have been playing 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there in the second half is one of those three are staying and two will go out on loan. And I think Will Lancashire has surpassed both of Scarlett and Valise. But then we heard the loan talk broke, whether it's just talk or there's some genuine there could be a possibility that he does go out on loan. I don't know where I stand on this one because I see both sides, but I think outside of the first teamers, he's our best striker at the moment, and I don't know if I'd want him to go out on loan. Where are you with Lankshear?
Do you know what, Brian? I've seen him so much for the under-21s, and he is your typical number 9, always in the right place. Fantastic finisher. I would like to see him get an opportunity. I think my hunch is that they are going to probably send him out on loan for next season because, let's face it, the under-21s, they've done so well last season. They walked the league. Then we had to win the playoffs. So we essentially won the league twice. They walked it, and they need a big step up. They need more of an opportunity. And if we are going to be signing a player like Solanke or someone else, then Lankshear probably won't get the minutes. But of course, you want to be keeping someone like that at the football club. So I feel like he is going to be a great player for the future. Even a couple of goals at Enfield. 1 week I'm watching him playing for Enfield, and then of course the next week he's playing the first team. For Hearts, which was fantastic to see. I love seeing that progression of the players moving up, from the youth, from the development, and then of course through to the first team. It is really, really great to see. But a real player for the future. I think that a loan move would really, really, be beneficial to him and some of the other players.
Where would you say? Low league, Premier League, upper Championship?
I think the Championship. Yeah. I think the Championship. I know it's being widely reported by The Athletic that Championship, League One and various other European clubs are interested. But like the Brian Hill situation, when Brian Hill went out on loan, many people were saying, why doesn't he go out to an English team? Because if you want to be bulking up and you want to have that experience in the English league, i.e. the Premier League, we should have loaned him out to a Premier League club. Right. So if you're going to get, I know people are going to probably shout saying, yeah, but Troy Parrott had a really successful loan spell at Excelsior. But I feel like that was totally different. I felt like that whenever he was going to come back, he was going to be sold on. I don't feel like he was in Ange Postecoglou's plans anyway. But someone like Lankshear so obviously is, and he is a player for the future. So I would like to see him stay in the English leagues and Championship. I think he would do very, very well. But we've got some great talent coming through, and I think that is a real positive thing, Brian. Some of the comments I've seen.
Very quickly, just want to say one thing with what you said about. I'm happy you mentioned Parrott, because whereas I think Valise and Hill would have obviously benefited with loans in England, I look at it now and I actually think Dane Scarlett could do with a loan like Parrott, because when he's been to England, he's been at Portsmouth, he's been at Ipswich. It just doesn't work. So I think him going out to a European league, getting regular first team football could be beneficial for him, and we'll get a proper view at him because he's not getting the rub of the green on loans in England. So I wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't mind Scarlett going out on loan to a Holland, to a France, a Belgium, and playing regular first team football.
Yeah, I know the club were very disappointed by him not getting the game time at Ipswich because he was virtually promised the game time, and of course that didn't materialise. Do you think that he is way down the pecking order now, though, Scarlett, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's. I think Lankshear's head and shoulders above Scarlett and Valise, and I think those two will go out on. Or the way I thought about it is Lankshear would stay and those two go out on loan. But then, like we said, once we saw this rumour come out that Lankshear may be going on loan, It just shows that we definitely need a striker coming in, doesn't it? If he's going out on loan, a striker has to come in.
Ryan, Radu Dragushin. Do you think he's going to get more game time this season?
You see so many people, I think for once, we've got the perfect defence to play a back three. Like, absolutely nailed on that back five, including obviously Adoji and Porro. If Antonio Conte had that back five, I think it'd be a completely different story. But now we've got an Ange Postecoglou. I don't, like we just said with Donnelly, is he going to be the left back? I obviously see maybe you have the option of moving Van der Ven out wide if Destiny isn't fit already. And then obviously you got Romero and Dragushin. But I want to see Van der Ven and Romero always as my starting two. But obviously, again, this comes down to we're in 4 cup or in 4 competitions. Squad rotation, game management. So I think we are going to see more of him. But I would love to see, even though we won't, I would love to see Ange play a back five.
Brian, who do you think will be the surprise package for Spurs next season?
Archie Gray. I don't know if you call a £40 million player a surprise package, but I think he's come in, and there's obviously a lot of people that have gone that he is a Leeds player, he's Championship. How can you play 40 million for an 18-year-old? I think he will.
Do you think he'll start against Leicester?
Yes. I think he will. I mean, I don't know what you think, Chris, or what people think, but I think he starts.
Yeah, I think obviously it all depends on what happens in the next 29 days. But yeah, fingers crossed on that.
As well.
Brian, Richarlison, keep or sell?
Sell. The only reason I say that, I think last season, if you looked at him when he hit that kind of patch where he was scoring goals regularly, the big problem with him is keeping fit. We were talking about a wow signing earlier, Chris, and we've been talking about Tottenham strikers of old and recent with Kane. Richarlison's highest goals tally in the Premier League is 13.
Yeah.
13. We need higher. If it is Saudi and Saudi come up with the best part of what we paid for him, sell. I don't know how you feel, Chris, with that. I can't depend on him. But I don't think Spurs can either.
I agree. I think he's very wasteful. Very, very wasteful in front of goal.
Yeah. You've seen him in the front. He had that period last season where he was scoring every game and he just looked a different player. But then obviously he got injured. He came back, he got injured. Then he's out of the Copper. He came back early. I don't understand why he's gone on that tour to not play a single game. Why not keep him at home to do his rehabilitation? I think if you can get the money, for him, you get rid of him.
Brian, there's a question here from Philip. Chris, would it be a successful window if the only transfers we complete between now and the close of the window is Emerson, Reguilon and Lo Celso out? Absolutely not.
There you go. That's one way of putting it. That would be, and also you got to remember, Phil, if that was that, whether you think their liability, our strength in depth just goes down. We've fundamentally let out a lot more players than we've brought in. Regardless if you think Archie Gray, Bergvall are the better quality than what we brought or got rid of, numerically we're weaker. And then you're dumping a load of pressure on the kids.
Yeah.
So again, if these three go out, this has probably been, outgoing wise, one of the greatest windows that I can remember in my entire life of supporting Spurs, and I'm 45.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I'd be surprised. And I've said this before, but I'd be surprised, really surprised this time, if Lo Celso stays around for next season, because the injuries that he's had, he just can't seem to grab that break of playing a consistent amount of games and deliver consistently under so many managers at Spurs. We know there's a player there. We know there's a fantastic player there. But doing it in a Spurs shirt just seems to be difficult, and we haven't seen it. And I just feel like he is another player that is going to be better somewhere else. We then get a good amount of money in for him, and then of course then spend it on someone that Ange wants.
That what we're hoping. I agree. I think Lo Celso, when fit, can be a magnificent player. But again, when he came on a couple of games when he started against Manchester City away, he was brilliant. When he started against Aston Villa at home, he was brilliant. But then he gets injured. Even at the end of last season, I think he came on against Nottingham Forest. And he came on and made a real difference. But we just cannot depend on him. He's like Richarlison. We just can't keep him fit. I think there's all this talk about Villa and Jacob Ramsey. I think he ends up back in Spain. I think that's where he wants to be. But I agree, he has to go. We can't keep these players that just continuously aren't available to put on the Spurs shirt.
Brian, where are you on Timo Werner? Are you a fan or not?
So I'll say again, when we signed him originally, I was actually quite impressed. I thought, do you know what? I can understand this. Son is going out to the Asia Cup. We're short on a left winger. He's got the pace and drive that Ange wants his wingers to do. And I thought if we could get the RB Leipzig first time round player, that could have been one of the shrewdest bits of business I've seen. Unfortunately, this guy, he can put in a good cross. He's got the pace to burn. There's no doubt about it. I'm not impressed by what I've seen. I was amazed. I think also bringing him back on loan has caused a problem at the wingers we bring in. Because obviously we've wanted a winger. You look at Eze, who can play on the left wing. Now you've got Son, Werner, and Eze could play there. I think it's complicated things. I don't understand it. Now, I was not impressed. Even in pre-season, I haven't been impressed. I think he got an assist yesterday, didn't he? So he got the assist in. A good assist.
It's a good assist, and he needs to do that a lot more. But I'll tell you where I am, Brian. I feel very similar to you. A lot of Chelsea fans said that he is an extremely hard-working player. You cannot doubt that whatsoever. Yeah. The ability in front of goal, the amount of chances that he misses is really, really frustrating. Yeah. I had, great belief that Ange would have worked on that and he would improve. I changed my mind on Timo Werner when we got battered away at Newcastle again, and he missed a couple of great chances. Yeah. And when we've got someone like Richarlison in front of goal being so wasteful, we don't need someone else. And when you've got opportunities, like a couple of weeks ago, he had that opportunity. I think you were on the podcast after the game, QPR, and the goalkeeper saved it. You've got to be scoring opportunities like that.
Yeah, he fluffed one at Hearts as well, where he kind of tried to shoot and he hit it off the wrong foot. Now, he got the assist he got was good yesterday against the K-League. But the problem I have with him is he has to have 7 attempts to do that. When we had a Bale, a Lennon, as you know, I could carry on naming people, they had one opportunity, one cross. You think, or you pretty much know that ball's going in the danger area. And I can honestly say I don't know anyone that could say, do you know what, if Werner had to get one chance to get the ball bang on the money, will he do it? I don't think a lot of people say, yeah, I think he would. And that's frustrating.
Simon at Premier Hotspur TV says, would you take Scott McTominay? I think from Brian's reaction and my laugh, I think that says it all, doesn't it? Do we need to even answer that?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing as well. I know it's ITKs and I know it's clicks and likes and but this is why people get frustrated, because whether they want to believe it or not, or they buy into this and say, we move stadiums. We got told that this is going to be the game changer. This is going to be different. This is going to be where the changes make. And Scott McTominay.
But Brian, even Ange said the other day, there's a lot of noise.
Oh, of course.
Some of these journalists and some of these outlets, they just plonk a name in there, and then the fans, some of the fan channels like this, they're like, oh my God, we don't want him. We don't want him. Oh my God, is this the ambition of the football club? But it's not even true a lot of the time. Yeah,
I've seen, and thankfully with this step back I've taken that I've spoken, I've seen some of them and I've just laughed. I have just laughed. Yeah, I may go on WhatsApp groups and say, oh my God, here we go. What a load of rubbish. But I'm not putting it on Twitter. I'm not blasting it everywhere. It's just like you said, it's white noise. It's noise. And then, like I said, the taglines, the buzzwords, it's made me laugh. I did, like I said, people see on my Twitter the Solanke one. I was like, right, that's it. I saw that word opportunities, and I bit. But yeah, Scott McTominay, if he arrives at Tottenham, I just don't understand what we're doing. I will not understand where we're going.
This is a very good point here from Michael. Thank you, Michael, for your point here. Chris, one good thing is that there are 0 leaks coming from the club. Is that the frustrating thing or a good thing, Brian, for you? Because in the past, we have seen the likes of Fabrizio Romano and, some very, very well-known and decent journalists out there with these transfer stories, rumours, and saying exactly who Spurs are interested in. Spurs are very, very guarded right now. Is this where a lot of the frustration is at the moment, because fans don't know who we're interested in? Because, let's face it, we could, Brian, hopefully we do, but we could have, some very, very decent players lined up to sign the next 4 weeks.
Again, we could, and again, we couldn't. But you know what? Again, this goes back to, we've gone, like I said, from attacking manager to defensive manager. And look at our directors of football and the way we do things. We've gone from Paul Mitchell that did things, then we've gone this one, then we've gone that one, and now we've gone from Paratici, who everyone knows he just throws loads of plates in the air and everyone's going like, which one is it? And then we home in on one. And then we have gone down to Lange, who literally does things in silence. No ITKs and all these people picked up on Højbjerg. None of them picked up on Santiago. And I would say Santiago is an easier one to keep quiet because obviously it's not a first-team player. But again, the outgoings have been kept very quiet. But that's what I think it is. We just don't know what we're doing. The fans, we go from one thing to another. And I think the silence is... Listen, the silence is either going to be definitely good or it's going to be thunderously loud if it goes wrong.
Does it put any confidence into you? Because at the end of last season, towards the end of last season, and even in the summer so far, all of the players seem to be talking about big things happening next season. And Postecoglou, on multiple occasions, has come out and said, we want to be number one. We're not interested in 5th, 4th, 3rd or 2nd. We want to be number one. How many times have we heard him say that in press conferences, out in the open, talking like a fan in those pressers? Does that put any more confidence into you, Brian, that you think that things are changing, things are more positive, and if all the players are coming out and saying it, and the manager is continually saying it, do you think that behind the scenes, everyone is talking big, the ambitions are high?
The one thing I will say is when it comes to Ange Postecoglou saying this, I've not heard other managers say we're going for that. Apart from Pochettino, when we were those 2 title reigns, none of them have come out and said, yep, we're going for number one. Because before him, it would have been laughed at. It would have been absolutely laughed at. And when he said we're going for the league, Ange Postecoglou, it's great to hear that. It's great to hear your manager going, I don't want 4th. And we don't count 4th as a trophy. I certainly don't. Give me the FA Cup and 10th over 4th any day of the week. I don't think anyone thinks Spurs right now we're genuinely going for top. But to hear the manager have that mentality is what we want to hear. The players buying into it is what we want to hear. Now you want to see it from the top people that can enforce it. It's great to hear my manager say, I want to win the league at Tottenham. I want to do this. It's great to hear the players saying, I believe in Ange Postecoglou. I want to play for Ange. Archie Gray said it was a big reason he came. Maddison said it was a big, great, wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Well, now it needs to follow in suit from top to bottom. And do I believe in Ange and that Ange wants to do that and the players want to do that and believe they can? Yeah, and if they think that, brilliant on them. Just the board get in line and think the same or act the same. And then we maybe see difference. But that's the issue that I have and it always will be.
Brian, last question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think will happen in the next 29 days in terms of incomings and outgoings? What do you think will happen? And also, What do you want to happen?
Well, listen, I want to see Tottenham have a blinding window. I want to see Tottenham blow everything that I've said and make me look an idiot. I want to see Tottenham Hotspur, everyone go, wow, my God. Like you said, that wow moment. I want to see the Premier League teams go, holy crap, Spurs aren't messing about. Spurs aren't playing. Spurs are here for the...
right, I think you've been a bit harsh there, saying about making you look an idiot, because you've said on so many occasions during the last hour and 45 that we've got 29 days left. I think you've been very, very, very fair and very honest in your assessment, as I have, because we've got 29 days left. Have we done enough so far? No. Do we hope that we do a lot more in the next 29 days? Absolutely.
I want to see I want to see 3 players come in. I want to see a striker, a winger, and a central midfielder, like a Harders now central midfielder. I think we get 2. And I think it's going to be Neto or Eze and a striker. Players out, I think there still will be outgoings. And if the window shuts, like I just said, with those 2 incomings and a couple of outgoings, you've got to sit around there and say, well, we're ready to attack it. Should it not happen, I think there could be big, big trouble at the club, with the fans, with the ball. I think it could be a real problem.
Brian, did you have to Google Vicario and Van der Ven?
Van der Ven, I didn't, because I saw that video of him doing that goal line clearance. But again, I'll be honest, like I said, Van der Ven, I didn't know anything about him. Vicario, and we spoke about it earlier when I said I went nuts when we didn't get Raya, but we did it well. That's brilliant talent ID, but you don't hit a bullseye every single time.
No,
you do. It's just you just cannot do it. Well, I'm sure there will be another player out of the woodwork like that. And do I think that we could strike gold again? Yeah, I could. We could very easily. But I think we need, like you said, a wow signing, a big statement.
Ange knows the Asian market extremely well and signed quite a few players for Celtic during his 2-year spell there. Do you think that's a market that we could dip into this summer?
I did a video with a guy on my channel called Dave. The day we announced, we were actually pre-recorded saying, why aren't we attacking the market? And then the news broke that we were attacking the Asian market as we were recording it. I'm surprised we didn't do it sooner. You do have players like Matoma. You do have players like Endo. You do have players like Tomiyasu. You do have, I can never say his name, and apologies if there's any Korean fans watching, the guy at Wolves. I can't remember the striker they've got. There are some real talent there. There is some real talent there. And I'm surprised it's taken this long. Now, a lot of people could say it could be for Levy and money and career. And I think there is a factor of that. Don't be stupid. It's that we know how much money comes in from Sonny and from the Korean fan base and the Far East fan base. I'm surprised we haven't used it before. I do expect whilst he's here and Munn that we will try and exploit it again.
Right, I know I said that was my last question, but I'll tell you, I could talk to you all night.
I've got all the time in the world, buddy.
Lastly, I just wanted to ask, because we normally ask people that come on this channel for the first time. I know this is your second appearance now, but why Tottenham for you? And how did you get into supporting Spurs? What was your first game? And who's your favourite ever player? Okay,
so my family are completely Spurs on both sides. Completely. It's a family tradition that's gone on for ages, that as soon as you're born, the first outfit you're wearing in the hospital is a Spurs baby grow. So you're born into it. But I remember at a certain age, I said to my dad, what football team should I support? And my dad said, right, your mum was born in Tottenham. She was born in Bruce Grove. Whole family support Tottenham. I was born in Hackney, but we all support Tottenham. He said, you, my son, can support any team as long as it ain't that lot down the road. And then I just followed suit. The first game I went to was 1988. We beat Tranmere 4-0 in the Rumbelows or Worthington or Littlewoods, whatever the damn cup was called. We drew 2-2 Tranmere. And my dad said, I think we were 2-0 up. And my dad said, with 10 minutes, if this gets to a replay, or we're 2-0 down, sorry. He goes, if this gets to a replay, I'll take you. and we got it to a replay and we won 4-0. And there's only my favourite player from the moment I saw him till the day I die, Paul Gaza Gascoigne. For me, I started watching just as Hoddle was leaving. I was too young to get Glenn Hoddle. Seen the videos, what a player, rightfully down as one of the greatest. To many people, the greatest.
Yeah.
But I got to see all of Paul Gascoigne, and I got to go regularly see him. And no matter what, no one comes close to him to me, and no one will.
Brian, of course, you live in Toronto now. Do you get to many games at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium nowadays?
When I'm over, I won't step foot. The last game I went into was the Man U 2-2 after we lost 6-1 to Newcastle. And the reason I walked out of that game because as we were losing 2-0, the Man U fans were singing "We Want the Glazers Out." I and other people, Chris, that day Levy Out was getting sung quite loudly. People looked at you if they weren't Levy Out with disdain or whatever. Then I looked at it, and 3 rows in front of me, 2 people were playing Candy Crush. To the right of me, people were discussing whether they should go to Brazil or Portugal on their holiday. And behind me, there was some, and I was like, that's it, I can't do it. And I walked out and I said, I'm never stepping foot in that stadium again. But when I'm here, I'm part of Toronto Spurs. We have a great pub called the Scotland Yard that opened up for us at 7:30 in the morning for the 12:30 or 12 o'clock kickoffs. I get to watch every single game. The great thing is here, we get every single game. Every single game for dirt cheap. I think it's $120 for the year to watch every single Premier League game of football. Every single one. And obviously in England it's restricted because of what it is. So I get to watch more Spurs here than I do when I'm at home.
Brian, it's been a fascinating conversation. And as I say, we've been talking for nearly 2 hours. I think we've covered everything to do with the club, the transfer window, the board, how we're feeling as Spurs fans. And of course, 29 days left. Hopefully it's going to be an interesting and decent window for Tottenham and Ange Postecoglou. Brian, is there anything else that we haven't spoken about that you want to say or get off your chest?
No, I mean, listen, people know. And I hope this conversation goes to show people can talk. I am as people will be saying, because I've gone down this new approach, I am no longer Levy Out. You can bet you I am one of the most predominant Levy Out people that do so much on YouTube and Twitter and everything. I will never change my values on that until the board changes. I've come on and been able to speak that. I may not be effing, blinding, shouting, screaming. Don't ever doubt where I stand with that. And Chris, I will say thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on. This is the second time we've done it. And you said to me, we're going to talk about the board, say what you want, when you want, how you want. And that's what we've done. So thank you, Chris.
Brian, I've got another question for you.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
If you had, I don't know, 10 minutes, half an hour in a room with Daniel Levy, because you've spoken about Daniel Levy more than transfers this evening. You've spoken about him more than anything else on this chat. If you could actually talk to him, have a conversation with him, what would you want to say?
I'd want to know why he neglects our history. I'd want to know why he treats the fans with such disdain and charges the most money. I'd want to know why there's no communication. I'd want to understand. I'd want to sit down with him and talk and just say, what are you doing? This is a football club, not a business. I just want change, Chris. And so do so many people. If I could sit down and talk to him, although that would never happen in a million years, I would just want to say to him, what the hell is going on here? Just get this football club up and running. It's been, even this transfer window, we've got to be careful for FFP. Then we've got to be careful for PSR. Then people find a loophole. There's just always something. There's always something. Yeah, you charge the fans the most money. And what for? Even today, Chris, something has annoyed me. And I don't know how you feel about this. This tweet that they've done with 2 games of pre-season left to say Spurs play 50% off. You get a £10 auto renew discount if you auto renew. And now you made people pay £45. A lot of people for the pre-season content, forget what the other content it offers, and now halfway through you go, we're giving it to you half price. Just things like that really irritate me, the disdain he has for this club. He says we have the glory, it's all about the glory. Where's the glory? He only comes out when it's money, and I just don't like the way he acts, and I don't like the way he treats the fans.
I get the PR emails, Brian, because sometimes when we've lost really important games, I think when we lost one of the finals, and then literally the day later, it was buy your shirts or buy this or buy Skywalk tickets or whatever. It was just really, really poor timing. It's frustrating, and but all of this feedback, it does filter through to the club. And I think that they have changed certain things, but some of it is still there. And I think that the club do hear a lot of frustration from a lot of people. But as I say, everyone is pretty worried right now towards the transfer window. But there is 29 days left, and both of us live in hope, as I'm sure a lot of other people all around the world live in hope, that we are going to have a decent window, and perhaps we can challenge for a trophy next season. Brian, we've definitely got to do this again. Yeah. And what I'd like to do is publicly invite you back in 4 weeks' time. So perhaps on the 1st of September, the transfer window ends on the 30th of August. So perhaps on the 31st of August or the 1st of September, perhaps you and I can do this exact same format again, and take a lot of the questions from the viewers and listeners, and of course discuss everything Spurs, get everything off our chest. You can tell me how you feel, and like I've said to you off air, on air, you can come on, you can talk about exactly what you want. I don't have guests on here saying don't say this and don't say that and don't talk about this, don't talk about that. You're free to talk about whatever you wish.
Chris, let's do it. Obviously, if it is the 1st of September and it is a bad window, I will be having a lot to say, as well as if it's a good window. But let's just see. But yeah, we can most certainly do that, Chris.
Well, a big sincere thank you to everybody who has been watching and listening. And by the way, Brian, I know you said, you don't know how the feedback will be for you being on this channel. There has been so many wonderful messages and great feedback for you being so open and honest about your thoughts and feelings on the club. And as I keep saying, that we all love the club, we all want success, we all want the same thing. But yeah, for everybody's feedback today, thank you so much for all of your questions, for all of your comments on all of the videos that I continually post on YouTube. And as we say, hopefully it will be a successful window, and hopefully Ange Postecoglou can take this club forward, show some ambition, and hopefully one day put a trophy back in the cabinet that hasn't been there for so long. Brian, thank you so much. And for people that would like to follow you on social media, where can they do so, and what are you up to at the moment, and what can people expect from your channel?
Yeah, like every day we put 2 pieces of content out in the morning time and the early evening on Tottenham on Tour. As you can see, the name's just written there on underneath my name. There's myself, Brian Ireland, Ben Kaufman, Amir. There's quite a Dave the Roadman, and a load of people come on and join in the chat. We talk all things Tottenham. My social media is just Brian Dagul without the AN, and obviously we have Tottenham on Tour's Twitter as well. And we have 2 shows, including a fan show tomorrow. So go over to Tottenham on Tour. Like I said, we don't bite. We may think differently about the board and the owners, but we will always have a conversation. And it's been great to do this one, Chris.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. And as I say, thank you to everybody for watching and listening. And remember that this is also available on all major audio platforms. So yeah, thank you so much. And we will see you on the next podcast. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Leave it out.